Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and thought, wow, my face is getting pretty fat? Maybe you're looking at your cheeks and you're like, why are they so chubby? Typing on the internet, how do I lose face fat? What do I need to do? Are there facial exercises that I can do? Well, look, if you store a lot of fat in your face, if you store a lot of fat in your cheeks, and you're trying to think about ways to potentially lose that, you're definitely going to want to stick around and watch the rest of this video because we're going to go into 3 different types of things that you can do to lose fat in your face. And we're also going to look at the potential for exercises that can potentially help out with that. So stick around and watch the rest of this video. What's up guys, Eric Bowling here. Look, in today's video we're going to explore the topic of facial fat. Yes, it is a real thing. I'm sure you've been looking at yourself recently and been thinking, wow, why is my face so chubby? So look, if this is a topic that interests you, you're definitely going to want to stick around and watch this because we're going to explore the potential foods that can cause inflammation, which in my mind and with what research shows is really going to be the thing that's driving that puffy face look. And so we're going to look at some stuff that you can do in terms of foods to avoid so your face is not getting puffy and you're not really storing fat there. Okay, so look, storing a lot of fat in your face, maybe it's puffy cheeks, maybe it's a double chin, you can just grow a beard like mine and hide it. First and foremost, it comes down to your genetics. Where you store fat first is different from where someone else stores it first. Someone else may put it in their legs, you may put it in your face. Now, we can't necessarily spot target fat. We can definitely prevent inflammation from making it worse. Now, from my experience working with clients, the first place that we see very drastic improvements is in their face. You might be asking, is this from fat loss? Well, a lot of it is definitely going to be from fat loss, but I would also argue that a lot of it is from them cleaning up their foods and getting rid of anything that's pro-inflammatory. So that big drop in inflammation and that big decrease in water retention is going to be the thing that's making their face look better quickly. So if you don't know, inflammation in small amounts, so something known as acute inflammation, is a natural process. It's good for us. If I go and I work out, I'm going to cause some level of inflammation in the body. And then as I go to sleep, my body's going to clear out a lot of those pro-inflammatory markers to help me to recover. So inflammation in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. The problem is when you have chronic inflammation or when you're always inflamed because, let's say, bad lifestyle choices, smoking, drinking, poor sleeping habits, low quality food, all these things can lead to increase in inflammation levels, which will in turn increase the total amount of water you retain. And if you're always looking at your face and thinking, hey, my face is pretty puffy, a big reason behind that could potentially be your habits are just leading you to be an inflamed person. Have you ever got a poor night's sleep and woke up with really puffy eyes? Well, this is kind of the same concept. When we get poor sleep, your body's not going through the process of clearing out a lot of the pro-inflammatory activity that it's going on. And so inflammation is just running rampant. So let's say a typical day for you is a bad night's sleep, some alcoholic drinks, low quality food, maybe it's takeout. If that's kind of what your day looks like, well, your face is definitely going to look different than if you didn't do those things. This is why my first piece of advice is to handle inflammation. Now, what can be some culprits that drive inflammation or can increase water retention? Well, when it comes to these things, there's pretty much 3 things that I look at. The first one's going to be sleep quality. The second thing is going to be your alcohol consumption. And then the third thing is going to be food quality. Now, there is overwhelming evidence linking poor sleep and obesity. And there's also evidence that suggests that increase in fat is what leads to pro-inflammatory markers. Now, since we know that better sleep in general can help us lose fat, then we also know in turn that better sleep is going to clear out a lot of that inflammation. So you might be asking, well, what are some things that I can do to get better sleep? Because maybe you're already saying, hey, I already sleep 7 hours, I wake up, I feel fine. Well, when it comes to sleep quality, there's going to be some things surrounding it, the same way you would look at a workout. When we look at a workout, we have things such as pre-workout, intra-workout, so during, and then post-workout. And this whole thing would be considered your peri-workout, let's say, nutrition. So what you eat before, what type of supplements or food are you having during, and then what are you having after for recovery. I like to think about sleep the same way, so we can think about your peri-sleep habits. And this is going to be, what are you doing prior to going to bed? So what are the habits that you have in place or the routine that's in place leading up to sleep, the habits that are in place during sleep, which we'll talk about, and then what does your morning routine look like? So when it comes to your pre-bed rituals or the pre-bed habits, first and foremost, what I would suggest is try to limit technology before you go to bed. So if you're watching Rambo before you go to bed, you're probably going to be producing too much dopamine, too much adrenaline, and that's not going to allow you to fall asleep and get that deep quality sleep. Now, the second thing that I would say is definitely limit caffeine intake. One thing to know about caffeine is that it has a half-life of up to 5 hours. For some people, there is some evidence that suggests that it might be more, depending on how fast you oxidize it. But what I would suggest is at least 5 hours, 5 to 7 hours before you go to bed, try and limit your caffeine consumption. So if you're having coffee at 3 p.m. and then you're going to be going to bed at around 9, it's probably going to be hindering you. Now, even if you think, hey, I already drink coffee and I can fall asleep fine. Well, just because you can fall asleep doesn't necessarily mean you're getting that deep quality sleep. Now, I know it's kind of weird to talk about your intra-sleep period, right? Because this is potentially the period where you're out, right? So what can you be doing during this time? Well, what I mean by this is going to be two things. Make sure that your sleep environment is set up right. And what I mean by sleep environment is pretty much, are there loud noises that you can hear? Maybe you're sleeping with a window and you're close to the street and you can hear cars going by. Maybe your room's not dark enough, so you put an eye mask on, right? So there's not outside light sources, light from your computer or from your TV that's not waking you up. And then the last thing would definitely be to make sure that your room is the right temperature. Usually somewhere around 68 degrees Fahrenheit would be a good place for you to fall asleep, because if you're going to bed and it's hot and you're sweating, you have the potential to wake up in the middle of the night, and that is going to ruin your total sleep quality. Now, when it comes to what you do after this, right? So you wake up, here's what I suggest. If you're setting an alarm and you're waking up and jumping out of your sleep because an alarm is waking you up, you're gonna get too big of a spike of cortisol and you're not really gonna be able to wake up properly. So what I highly suggest is to download an app that has a progressive alarm clock, something that starts off slow, where your body's slowly starting to get out of that sleep period, that deep sleep, especially if you're dreaming. And then the alarm sound starts to continually ramp up as you're already waking up. I found this to be the best way to get out of sleep, so you're not just being pulled out of your dreams, you're not being pulled out of that deep state of sleep, having your heart pounding because you don't know what's going on. And then the last thing that I would suggest in terms of your post-sleep routine is going to be to spend some time deep breathing, and just try to create a morning routine. If you're kind of just jumping out of bed, turning off your alarm, running to throw some water on your face to get ready, you're probably not gonna have the best sleep. You're not gonna remember your dreams, you're not gonna remember anything. You're just starting your day with a lot of stress. Those are some of the things that you can do tonight to kind of, lead up to this better sleep quality that can really help to reduce the inflammation in your face. So now let's talk about the alcohol consumption part. I like to enjoy wine every now and then, but if you're drinking more than 5 to 7 drinks a week, probably need to cut back a little. There's a few things that the research shows in terms of excess alcohol consumption with, let's just say for the sake of things, that's going to be 7 drinks or more per week. Now, the first thing that I would say about alcohol is that it's going to increase the production of harmful bacteria and endotoxins in the gut. Anything that leads to gut dysbiosis is going to cause more inflammation. The other thing is that research also suggests that excess alcohol consumption can increase the likelihood of endotoxins bypassing the intestinal barrier, slipping into the bloodstream, and harming organs. Much as you probably like drinking, look, there's a few things associated with drinking that everyone knows. We all have the stereotype. We say beer belly, right? And if your face is permanently red from drinking, that's probably the first place that I would tackle. Even in small amounts, these things will add up to a puffy face and potentially increasing the likelihood that you're storing fat in your face. Next, let's look at the obvious, food quality. If you're still relying on highly processed foods, that's gotta be the main place that you tackle. Clean up your nutrition by going for nutritionally dense foods that are low energy. Let's say, for example, on your plate, you have a cup of broccoli and you have a nice piece of steak. That whole meal right there might only be somewhere around 300 or 400 calories, if even that, depending on how fatty the steak is, right? Now, if we were to look at that, that might fill you up. But you can then go and look at a small little bag of chips, and that bag of chips might also be 400 calories. So we have two options here. Both of them yield the same amount of energy. Not really. Here's the reason why. When it comes to these low quality foods, here's what you have to know. It's a lot of calories. Your body's not gonna use a lot of calories to consume this stuff because it's already highly processed. So the thermic effect is nearly gone. And then you're not getting much nutrition from it either. So the micronutrients, the macronutrients, they're not really there in the quantities that you need to feel satiated. So with these very highly palatable foods that don't provide much nutrition, you can eat a lot of them and not gonna get much from it. So if we think about these three things, these are really simple things that you can do. Start getting better sleep, try to limit your alcohol consumption, and just start cleaning up your foods. I know it sounds very simple, but this is really the reality of it. Now, if you're kind of thinking about, well, what are potential exercises or something that you can do to increase, the chiseledness of your face? I don't think that's a word, but let's just say that it is, right? So if you're looking for, your face to be a little bit more defined, you want to start seeing those cheekbones, you want to start seeing that jawline, the most important thing is going to be what we would call tongue posture and neck posture. So just to kind of give you an idea, if you're waking up every single morning and your mouth is just cotton mouth, you're waking up with a dry mouth, let's say you snore, whatever it might be, that's going to come down to your tongue posture when you sleep. So more than likely you're waking up with a dry mouth because you're sleeping like that, right? Now, why is tongue posture so important? Well, your tongue is pretty much going to be the main muscle holding everything up. So if you sleep with an open mouth or if you breathe with an open mouth, the big muscle here that's responsible for the jaw, it's not necessarily working as it should be. And instead, everything is just being handled by gravity and drooping down. And that's really going to prevent the muscular maturity in your face that can give you that defined look. When it comes to tongue posture, I highly recommend looking up something known as mewing. Now, I'm not saying that this is some magical thing or that if you start doing this, that it's going to lead to drastic results. But what I would say is that just starting now, considering and being a little bit mindful about tongue posture, in terms of making sure that the middle point of your tongue is positioned on the roof of your mouth at all times, and that your lips are sealed and that you're practicing breathing through your nose, this is really going to help with how your face looks. The next thing I would say is going to be your neck position. So if you're on the computer all day long or you're on your phone and your neck is like that, what I suggest is doing something known as the Mackenzie chin tuck, which is simply line yourself back up against the nice wall, take your index finger and just push your chin in, give yourself, that's gonna help to increase the activity of the muscles responsible for holding everything in place. Things that haven't been working because you've been in this position the whole time and now you'll be somewhere here. Now, you'll probably look weird doing it at first, so I suggest do it at home when no one's looking, but just start practicing these things. Think about breathing through your nose more, keeping your tongue in the right position, not breathing through your mouth, and just proper chin placement and proper neck alignment. These things alone, paired with better sleep habits, limiting alcohol intake, and cleaning up your food, are going to be some of the most important steps to get you looking the best that you can. And now lastly, this is just something that I do want to cover because while all this sounds so good, if you're not in a calorie deficit, okay, I need to really drill this point home because you could still be gaining fat by eating a lot of clean foods. So if your goal is to reduce overall fat in your face, the first thing I suggest is make sure that you are in a caloric deficit, first and foremost, because then your body will be in that spot to start pulling fat from the body. If you need more information on that, just go ahead and click the video above. That'll kind of get you in a better spot in terms of how to kickstart this whole thing and get you to look your best. Now look, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave me a like and make sure to subscribe. I'll be posting more videos regularly. And if you enjoy this content, just reach out in the comments and let me know. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.